Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Louis Burkett, and today I'm here to convince you guys that personal finance should be mandated across high schools across the entire U.S. My main points being that teenagers graduate the world with no financial knowledge, great financial knowledge has lifelong benefits, and poor financial literacy can lead to financial struggles. Finance has both good and bad aspects to it, the good being a stress-free lifestyle or even an early retirement. The bad being poverty, homelessness, crippling debt, bankruptcy, or even fraud, all things that can affect our lives in a very negative way. My audience today is for those who know a lot and a little about finance. Those who know a lot can really understand and imply their knowledge on other students, and then those who know little can learn something and maybe even encourage others to learn more about finance as well. My credibility is both borrowed and personal. Personal being I had to witness my mom struggle financially. It created this weight on her shoulders. That was due to lack of financial knowledge. So that really inspired me to pursue this topic and try to encourage students or others to push for that mandate across the U.S. for personal finance classes. My borrowed being that I have conducted numerous research through CWI's library, looking through dozens of articles and researching about why personal finance matters and why our students should understand that. My first point is that young adults lack financial knowledge. Why? That's because high schools in today's society do not teach personal finance across the whole U.S. I have the statistic here. It shows states across the U.S. that teach personal finance, the green being states that do, the blue being states that necessarily do not. As you can see, there's a lot of blue on there. We want to mandate personal. My goal is to mandate personal finance not across the entire U.S., not just specific states. Young adults fresh out of high school have a limited understanding of credit and debt. These are things that are very important, credit score, stuff like that, for future financial planning. And then students in today's world are unprepared for large financial decisions. The number one being college debt. It's a very common thing you see with students. Just accepting debt. It's one of those things that shouldn't be that way. My second point, or correction, I have a quote from Greg Philbick from the Penn State School of Business. According to a national report in 2015, financial literacy education in schools are inefficient on a scale from A to F. 26 states received a C or lower. That's one of those things that over half the U.S. is poorly teaching our kids financial literacy. So this goes into that point of kids aren't getting that proper education. My second point is poor financial skills often lead to financial struggles. Many people who have poor financial skills lead paycheck to paycheck, which is often a struggle. Those with little financial knowledge most commonly have poor spending habits. These poor spending habits also link into having those paycheck to paycheck, kind of lives. And lastly, people who lack financial knowledge often have a hard time accomplishing those financial goals. A lot of us have financial goals in life, retire, make $1 million, anything like that. And so having those poor financial skills often limits that. I do have the statistic as well. For those who live paycheck to paycheck, as you can see, it is increasing as the years go on, as high as 25% of the U.S. That's a lot of people. 1 in 4 people live paycheck to paycheck in the U.S., which is obviously an issue. According to Anna Maria Lasardi from George Washington University, accordingly, the least financially savvy bear disproportionate share of the costs associated with fee-inducing behaviors. This meaning that people who lack financial knowledge often have bad spending habits, which is another point I brought up earlier. Lastly, my last point is that good financial literacy has lifelong benefits. Why? This is those who learn about financial literacy and have great financial knowledge often are better at managing their money. Managing money is important to prevent that living paycheck to paycheck, putting your money where it needs to be, not necessarily where you want it to be, but where it needs to be. Those with financial literacy often make better decisions with their money. Making good decisions, helps prevent those negative impacts of poor financial skills. Making good decisions, not just spending everything, getting a $50,000 car if you don't have the money for it, stuff like that. And those who have better knowledge in finance often retire earlier. I have the statistic here. 35% of millennials expect to retire before the age of 65. Only 35%. That means the other 65%, believe that they are not going to be able to retire before then, and that's because of that lack of financial knowledge. So those who do have good financial knowledge often retire earlier. Nathan Phelps, who is a financial analyst, says financial skill has the strongest relationship with financial well-being and financial behaviors, as well as components of the objective financial situation. That being, the overall just being financially stable. Those who have the strongest relationship are often the best with have the highest financial skill. One of those things is that I want to put in your head is imagine an 18-year-old fresh out of high school with their first bit of money and not a clue in the world what to do. Now imagine if they did. Before I leave with you today, I want you to go, if you guys can, I can go to your old high school's website and check to see if their curriculum has financial readiness. If not, you should send a quick email to your school asking them why. Lastly, the start of financial literacy is learning how to build a budget. Building a budget makes your money stretch a lot further. Dave Ramsey once said, "A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why I'm here today to tell you guys that financial literacy should be mandated across schools across the entire U.S. Thanks, guys.